Win by stomp is what he...
Win by stomp.
Stompage. Thank you for downloading and listening to the West Box Score. We take a look at sports on the west side of the country, inside and outside of the box score. And here to do that with me is my co-host, co-pilot, co-captain, the Coach Kavanaugh, to my notorious Conor McGregor, Donald. Paz, what's up, Donald?
Yo, what up, Alex?
And getting psyched up to talk to our illustrious guest, which I'll bring on in just a moment. I just need to ask you to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at West Box Score, and also subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast downloaded. So now, the moment podcast fans around the world have been waiting for. From the Fox Crate Podcast, the reigning, defending, undisputed crate digging champion of the world, Sonny and Hermano.
It's time!
I hope you guys didn't mind my terrible Bruce Buffer impression there.
Man, I was going to say that Donald was maybe the toes to your Usman foot.
So it's like every week I come up with something new for Donald, because without Donald, there is no West Box Score. So right. I got to give big props to Donald, and big props here to Sonny Hermano, because he's coming on almost every week with us now. This is a 3-man team here, which I appreciate, Sonny Hermano. Thank you for taking the time to come out here.
Oh, man. Happy that you guys keep wanting me back. Every time we're done with an episode, I'm always like, man, I went after Alex a little tough on that one. I wonder if they'll invite me back.
He gonna cry in the car, but I hope he brings you back next week.
But yeah, I got my I got my 3 stars on my jersey now, on my podcast jersey. You know,
exactly. Nice. This is your 3rd show, 3rd star, well earned, well deserved, and you are the reigning and defending podcast champion, crate digging and podcast champion.
I appreciate that, man. That was such a hype intro, dude. Like, I need to. You're making me want to step my own intro game up, dude. That was
we got to, man. Look at last week we talked. We were all excited for UFC 251 and Fight Island. So I had to equal that hypeness that we were feeling in our intro. So let's get into it. Donald, why don't you tell us who the first fight was?
So the first fight of the main card was the women flyweight division, which was Amanda Ribas versus Paige Van Zandt. And the winner was Amanda Ribas by submission.
What'd you think of that fight, Sonny?
Man, I missed the submission, to be honest.
Yeah.
I think the mailman came through, and I went to go grab the package, and I came back, and it was like I seen her celebrating already, and I was like, what the fuck did I miss? I thought it was almost what I expected. I don't know why I followed your pick. You sent me picks right before the card started. And I think just in the interest of going against to make it interesting, I was like, let me pick opposite everything that Alex chose. And I let you talk me into that one when I saw that you had picked Van Zandt.
Well, no, that's the only one we agreed on, I think. Right. That's the only one we agreed on. And again, we were thinking more aesthetically and what we've seen her do in the past. Right. And she's kind of she's good looking, obviously, but also has a skill set to back it up.
Dangerously
so kind of
good
us
looking.
thinking,
yeah, you're right.
Dangerously good looking, totally. So we kind of thinking, yeah, she's good. And then it's like the last fight of her contract, and dude, she's going to go out on a high note so that way she can renegotiate with UFC, but it didn't work out that way.
Ribas outclassed her, man.
Totally.
It just completely outclassed her. I'm curious to see what this means for Van Zandt. I'm curious to see what's next for her. What fight would happen after
Bellator. Bellator might be next, or you know what would be good for her is one championship. Because they're trying to expand from Japan over to the United States, and they already have Sage Northcutt and Mighty Mouse, and so I think that would really help catapult them from getting into the United States market, more attention here in the U.S. market with an all-American girl like Paige Van Zandt fighting on the main card, pay-per-views. People will buy it.
Yeah, that's true.
So what was the next fight after that?
So the next fight after that was a women's strawweight. That was between Jessica Andrade and Rose Namajunas, which Namajunas won by decision in the 3rd round.
Fight of the night.
Absolutely.
Fight of the night.
It was crazy because when I saw the line on this one, it kind of made me realize, like, wow, Vegas really doesn't think that regardless of what happened the last fight, it was kind of a bit of a fluke. When I saw the line, I was like, oh, wow, like they really don't think she could do it 2 times in a row, which crazy to see how Vegas was right on that.
Barely, though, because I expected total domination from Thug Rose. And for those last 2 rounds, man, the last round and a half, it was like, yo, is she going to get caught here? Because she was getting peppered towards the end. Understandably so, because Andrade was losing the fight at that point. So, coming towards her, coming after her towards the later rounds was obviously what she had to do. But man, Thug Rose really impressed me. Just the fact that they stood on their feet, they lasted all 3 like that, was impressive, man. It was, to me, it was the fight of the night.
I agree with you. The heart of these women, and I always prefer women's fights kind of to men's some of the time, because they fight with so much heart and such reckless abandon. It's not for lack of skill.
However, I will say, though, that this is one of the fights that was the reason why I think it was fight of the night, though, aside from, like you said, the heart that obviously they were displaying. They were being so technical in this fight, man. And that's something that you don't see as often, unfortunately, in the women's fights.
I agree.
Because it's still very much growing in terms of the field, the competition, the stature of the fighters. But this one was like, yo, they're being very technical. I was very impressed and pleased, and I wanted just to see more. I want to see a third. I want to see. I feel like Andrade did enough to warrant it. Obviously she won the first one, so it makes sense that they have the third one because it's 1-1 right now. But again, my thinking was that Thug Rose was going to prove that it was a fluke and dominate throughout, but that's not how it went. She kind of, like I said, it was almost like 1.5 to 1.5 in terms of rounds, with a slight edge to Thug Rose. I guess I gave her rounds 1 and 2, obviously. But if you were going to take it away from Max, then if I knew that the judges were going to take it away from Max eventually, then it would have made sense for them to also take it away from Thug Rose at that point. So it was interesting to compare those 2 fights.
Before we get into obviously the controversy that we're going to get to in the co-main event later, whenever you score a fight, it's tough to know exactly what judges are looking at. We as fans are looking at it and just going straight up looking at the damage. And if you look at Thug Rose's face after that damage that she took in the 3rd round, you think, well, of course, how did she win?
Right.
And it was just all the proper scoring that she did in the first 2 rounds to give her such a huge edge and give her the 2 rounds to 1. And this one, even though the eye test tells you a different story, we'll get into the minutia of the co-main event in just a moment. Donald, what was the fight? We can agree there was no controversial decision in this one.
No.
Thug Rose won handily.
It was close, but no.
Yeah.
Okay. What was the fight after this one, Donald?
Next up is the bantamweight title bout, which was between Peter Yan and Jose Aldo, in which Peter Yan won by TKO in the 5th round.
How many? Okay, go ahead, Sonny.
Yeah, man, this was one that had controversy, but not for the reasons that I think we would normally say it was controversial. There was no controversy as to who won this fight. Peter Yan, I felt like the first round and a half, maybe 2 rounds, they were filling each other out, and Jose was making him think a little bit, change his strategies. But once Peter Yan did, man, you saw it. It just became total domination. And the controversy was how long the referee let this thing go on for, man. I mean, I totally understand the respect factor, for the legend that is Jose Aldo. Obviously, he's one of the greatest of all time, but he had pretty much given himself up a whole 50 seconds prior to it being called. He was defending himself in the smart way that one should defend themselves. But there was no way he was gonna. He wasn't even planning on getting out of that. He was just protecting himself.
I think Jose is trying to get to a decision because it was in the 5th round, obviously, where it ended. But in that fourth round, he took it was, I believe, late in the third round, or it might have been early in the fourth round, where he took a kick to the ribs, and there was bruising right there. And
it was earlier. I think it was the second round that happened.
Was it that early?
Or it might have even been the first round.
No, it wasn't the first, because the first was
I think it happened at the end of the first round where he was on the floor, and then he kind of clutched.
It was like gut punch, no?
Yeah, exactly. It was the end of the first round, and it was like, yo, did he just break a rib? We were trying to figure it out, like what's going on. He switched his lead foot, but so did Peter Yan. Also switched his lead foot because he was getting peppered with the leg kicks.
That's right.
And but then you would still see Jose throw those kicks and some punches without really wincing. So, I was led to believe, oh, maybe he just got the air knocked out of him. Maybe it wasn't a broken rib.
Right.
But if my memory serves me correctly, I think it happened at the end of the first round.
That was the first round, yeah. No, I remember that.
And just the gutsiness for him to keep going another 20 minutes. This was all Peter Yan from, I feel like it was later in the second round on, right?
Yeah.
Peter Yan's resume of fights haven't been the greatest. Aljamain Sterling has more impressive wins than Peter Yan so far. And Aljamain Sterling might be the next contender.
Yeah.
That should be a battle.
That weight class is stacked, though, man. That class is, man. And then I still think Cejudo comes back at some point.
He's been chirping on Twitter. He has been chirping.
I think he comes back at some point. So we'll see, man. We'll see.
Bring on Captain Cringe. I love him. He's great. He is a great, fun fighter to watch.
Yeah.
Absolutely. His hijinks on social media is cringy, but he is a fun fighter to watch in the octagon. And now, what's the next fight on the card, Donald?
After that was the co-main event, which was for the featherweight. And that was between Alexander Volkanovski and Max Holloway, in which Alexander Volkanovski won by decision after the 5 rounds.
Split decision.
Yes. And I attest the controversy here is that it was a split decision when it should have been a unanimous decision for Volkanovski.
Oh, my God. Don't even get me. Okay.
So let's go with the argument for the robbery. In the group text, I got it right away after this fight was over. Sonny and Arnold texted us, robbery, exclamation points.
That was the only time I had texted, right? And it was like when that happened. Here's the reason why I will go as far as saying it was a robbery, because I know that sounds extreme.
It is.
The fight was close. I will concede that. However, when you take into consideration that back in December, when they had their first fight, and Max was the champion, okay, Volkanovski was the challenger. That fight was also close, okay? I could see how judges favored it in slightly to Volkanovski, which I actually agreed with at the time watching that fight. However, you could make the case, well, because Max was the champion, he obviously didn't get submitted. He didn't get knocked out. It was close enough. I could understand if at that point the judges had decided Max is still the champ in a split decision, right? But that's not how it went. It went, even by, again, as I just said, it went the way I think it should have gone. They awarded the victory to Volkanovski back in December. Now, mind you, I know it's a different state, different commission, different judges. I get that. But now flash forward to what was fight night last weekend, and it almost went the same exact way the other way, where Max dominated for the first 2 rounds, and then the third round was hella close, but I still gave Max the slight edge, and then I gave rounds 4 and 5 to Volkanovski. Now, under the same exact principle, I thought, okay, well, if you were able to give it to Volkanovski last time, and that fight was arguably just as close, then Max is the winner. And to my surprise, nope. They not only was I surprised that they awarded the split decision to Volkanovski. When I saw the scorecards after the fact, it wasn't even round 3 that was the contentious round. It was round 5 which was wild to me because I even went back to watch round 3 after the fight card was over.
Right.
And there's no way any judge could have. All three of them gave it to Volkanovski round 3.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That to me, you led the show off when you said sometimes we as fans we are looking at it differently versus what the judge are looking at. Sometimes I question if the judge is even looking, in situations like this, because it was just indefensible. I mean, and I can't wait to hear, first of all, I don't know if you're a Volkanovski fanboy.
No. Oh yeah, exactly. No, I love Max Holloway.
Okay.
Blessed. I love the Blessed era. And it was tough to see him lose the way he did in December, as you mentioned. It's like watching it, I'm like, why isn't he doing anything? Why isn't he imposing his will?
Right.
Why is it? And it's one of those styles make fights.
But he did that this time. He did that this time. He didn't finish. Volkanovski finished stronger, obviously, because I think Volkanovski, his corner, they knew they were losing that fight. And so, of course, rounds 4 and 5, he brought it.
I feel like he only lost those first 2 rounds for the knockdowns. He was still making his adjustments mid round. And even though Holloway was controlling the octagon, and obviously that goes into scoring, right? That's what they always tell us. Like octagon control, where it's judged on striking, grappling, takedowns, knockdowns, and octagon control. Now, mind you, he was controlling the octagon, but he wasn't landing as many. He was landing strikes, but a lot of them were missing. And why do we not give credit for strong defense?
But he also defended takedowns. Volkanovski took him down. He popped right back up. So again to the controlling.
But do you not give a credit for the actual act of taking down?
Of course you give,
down.
Yeah, of course you give credit for the takedown itself. Yes, but as you just said, Max was controlling the octagon. Volkanovski was going around Max. Max was literally the logo, the UFC logo in the middle. That was Max's domain. Basically for the first 3 rounds.
Right. Well, in the first 2, yes. In the third was a lot closer, razor thin close, but because there was no knockdown and there was no actual takedown in the third round, I saw a lot of combinations that missed from Holloway. A lot of combinations didn't connect.
Right.
They looked good, and you, as you're a judge, you're looking at these like, oh, he's throwing all these flurries of combinations, but after he'd be done with the combinations, he got hit with a significant strike all the time. Significant strike, leg kick. Significant strike, always in that entire third round, 4th and 5th. 4th and 5th were actual takedowns. So you'll have to give Volkanovski 3rd, 4th, and 5th. That's it.
I don't know about the 3rd, man. I'm telling you, I went back and watched it. Please go back again and watch it.
I did too. I watched it the second time too, and I tried to be as unbiased as possible. And like, what are they seeing? What are they seeing that I'm missing?
And again, if we use the 2 fights earlier precedent of the Thug Rose fight, then how can you sit here and tell me, that this one was not controversial then? Because
no, I'm not saying it's not controversial because there's no finish. Whenever there's not a finish, there's always going to be controversy.
Well, maybe. Sometimes you could tell. There was no finish in the Masvidal Usman fight, and we all knew who won that fight.
But that's complete and other dominant. That's what Usman does. He just dominates. Yeah. But whenever there's like margin for error, whenever they get to these judges, we don't know how they're going to score it. And especially when it's that close, I think we could all agree this Volkanovski Holloway fight was razor thin close. Really tough to score. And depending on what the judges are actually seeing, what do we know? Outside of them actually posting up the scores on a Jumbotron or allowing the fighters to see what the score is after every round, we're always going to be left with this indecisiveness when it gets to the judges.
Yeah. No, I get it. It was just frustrating. And maybe I shouldn't quote him because I don't typically care for Dana White's opinion on those things.
I know.
But he was perplexed as to how the judges scored it the way they did. If maybe 2 of the 3 judges saw that Volkanovski won round 3, and then 2 of the 3 saw that Max actually won round 5. Okay, fine. I can get how that's razor thin. But when you're telling me that round 3 was unanimously, I don't know. I went back like Zapruder film, and I like watched that round.
The JFK assassination, right? There's a judge in the grassy knoll there.
Yeah, it's like, oh, that's where the sniper hit him. That's where.
Because in all honesty, and I think the reason why Dana White says this, I think he's trying to sell us on Volkanovski Holloway 3 immediately.
Of course,
and it's got to happen, and it's fair, but it's also odd that a champion has defended his title against a former champion, and yet even though he's won, he's got to defend it right again against the former champion.
I actually feel bad for him, man, because I think he's been put in a position where people may feel like he shouldn't even be the champ right now.
Right.
So people are now rooting for him to drop the belt. Which sucks, because he's actually a great fighter, and I don't think that should be the case. But this is what happens when you have, judges that can dictate victories.
And yes, exactly. And I think the only way to do this, Volkanovski Holloway 3, is no rounds, no judges, fight to the finish. There you go. Make it happen.
Mortal Kombat.
No cage. They're going to have it in a parking lot somewhere outside the Applebee's.
There you go.
Nice. No, but two great fighters, and it's just a shame that it has to end this controversy. Good fight, super close fight, and the whole robbery, I don't agree with it. I feel the only fair thing would have been to do is a draw. I know nobody likes draws.
I would have taken it. I would have taken a draw.
More draws.
I wouldn't have said robbery if it was a draw. I would have said makes sense.
Yeah, I don't get the whole 3-2 Holloway that's trending on Twitter, Donald.
I was watching. I was on Twitter right after the fight. It was like 3-2 Max was the trending topic number 1.
That's why I said hashtag okay. Not my champion.
Dang.
That's funny.
All right, so what main event time?
Snooze.
Main event. Unless you've been living under a rock, then you should already know. It was Usman versus Masvidal, which Usman won by decision.
Wasn't it Usman's right foot versus Masvidal's left foot? Or what was it? Was it win by stomp?
Win by stomp.
Stoppage.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Alex, I'll let you take this one, man. I don't know.
I mean, it's one of those things where coming off of the controversy of the co-main event, we're like, okay, let's get excited. Main event time. Gamebred Jorge Masvidal here against, the Nigerian nightmare, Kamaru Usman. We knew what we were going to get, but we were hoping we wouldn't get this clinch battle against the cage for 5 rounds, 25 grueling minutes of just holding the guy, clinching, working, which is, if you're a big MMA fan, you can appreciate, but you're still not excited by it.
The fact that Usman was evoking Floyd Mayweather's name in the post-fight conference should tell you enough about how this fight went and what type of fighter Usman is and how frustrating it is to watch his fights.
Yeah,
I feel like the Kobe one was an anomaly at this point. I do think styles make fights, but if he's, man, it's just so frustrating. Like, yes, technically he's talented. He's
without question
hard to break down, obviously. But come on, man, like there is a performance element to this game, just like in boxing, if we're going to compare it to boxing, that you want to see, you want your champions. It's like style points, you want your champions to, in soccer, the that's why we lean towards the scoring midfielder or the forward that scores the actual goals, as the most exciting players, and why oftentimes they're referred to as the greatest of all times when you start thinking about conversations about, the GOATs of the sport. With all due respect to defenders and goalkeepers, it's just their position is not as exciting. That's not to say that they're not amongst the best. They are. But I think in every sport, we as fans tend to appreciate the performance aspect of it.
Right.
And when you have a champ that's so physically gifted as Usman is, and he's fucking using his foot. Like it's so frustrating, man, because you can tell Masvidal wanted to fight, you know. Obviously not just because that's just his style. He's a better fighter, although he's not a bad grappler. He's improved mightily over his career. But we all know what he wanted just based off of the pre-fight talk, and he wanted to beat up Usman, you know, throw blows with him. And so when you see Usman's kind of say or kind of go away from that and just willing to just wear him down in this very like boring, it's just not attractive. It's like, sure, you won, you did technically dominate him, but you're not making me a fan. You know, so
do you think he cares as the champion, knowing that he has the belt, knowing that he gets champion bonuses just for having the belt, that he doesn't care if he didn't win any fans and he's going to keep getting that money?
I don't think he cares yet. I think he will, though, if people keep coming for him. I think when you're the champ, hey, what can you do, right? But I don't know, man.
Well, this is where we go back to
not my champ.
Yeah, hashtag not my champ. This is where we go back to our good friend Dana White, and he has a way of making you pay even as a champ. He just doesn't put your title fights on the pay-per-views because he knows that you're not going to sell the pay-per-views. He's just going to put you on the ESPN Fight Night, the UFC on ESPN just to prove a point, just to like, okay, you're the champ, great, you're going to defend your belt, but it's not going to be on the pay-per-view. You're not going to get that pay-per-view money. So, yeah, it's a real shame we didn't get the excitement of a main event, but we got to see Masvidal try to do his thing. And in that first round, he got off some shots. He dazed Usman, and I think that's what immediately made him change his style. Like, nope, I am not going to play this game and get knocked out here. Yeah, I'm going to play my game. And for every fighter goes into the octagon thinking, I'm going to do my game plan, until you get punched in the face, and then that all goes out the window. But big ups for Usman to still get to his game plan. So I mean,
I agree. Yeah, it's just unattractive, you know.
I agree. No more Usman pay-per-views in our future, unfortunately. So, and speaking of game plans that don't go according to plan, we're going to go into the MLS is Back tournament coming up right now after the break. Stick around. And we're back on West Box Score. I'm Alex Gonzalez, once again with Donald Paz and Sonny and Hermano. So, Donald, the MLS is Back tournament officially got underway for Group F. It's been underway for a while, but the real teams that we care about are in Group F. They got underway this week. Give us those results.
So, the first game of the night, which was LAFC versus Houston Dynamo, ended in a draw, 3-3. Very impressive comeback by LAFC, which I know we'll discuss in a bit. And then the game after that was LA Galaxy versus Portland Timbers, in which the Galaxy lost 2-1.
And the big news there is Chicharito finally got on the score sheet. And that's all for the West Box Score this week. Talk to you guys next week, and bye. Oh, wait, the show's not done. No. Okay, let's dissect. Let's dive in to what Sonny Hermano's been waiting for all week to get into, sink his teeth into this delicious piece of MLS is Back tournament media. Give it to us. You get it? You see what I did there?
Yes, I appreciate the GOAT. Yes, exactly. But Vela's not participating in this tournament, so we'll... Where do you want me to start with, man? The Galaxy?
No. Start off with the JV team, the 5:00 game, which was the LAFC versus.
Don't talk about Houston
Dynamo.
like that, man. That's not nice, man. Tab Ramos is really trying, dude. He's no. In all seriousness, actually,
hell of a game.
Yes,
great game.
It was a great game, entertaining game, that's for sure. It's hard to judge these games, especially the first one being played after the hiatus, due to COVID, for both Houston and LAFC. Not even considering the personnel changes that were still being worked out, because only 2 games were played prior to them being shut down. So, for instance, Bradley Wright Phillips wasn't somebody who, even in the first 2 games, we had really incorporated yet like that. So this was our first time seeing him. Obviously, this was LAFC with Novella. That's another thing to account for. You're not playing in front of your home fans. Houston under Tab Ramos, again, this is his first season coaching that team,
right?
And the young talent that they kind of displayed, and so there was like an interesting amount of variables. So that's why I really went in with no expectations, other than just watching the game and seeing what was going to happen in real time.
But so many positives to come out from this game, because they, in that first half, looked lost. They didn't know, even though they had possession, so much ball possession, which is their strength, and they still had no way to how to create scoring chances. It looked like to me in that first 45 minutes.
Yeah, it's the same recipe. I say all those changes, and yet it was the same things that doomed them in the first half, and that was silly defensive mistakes, which has always been our Achilles heel. Our Achilles heel as an LAFC team since inception. For whatever reason, obviously the personnel has always geared towards stacking up the offensive side of the ball, from the midfield play
to get those style points.
Yeah, exactly. Which, as fans, we appreciate. It's the same way we were able to come back from down 3-1 to tie the game and nearly get all 3 points from it. If that game goes on for 5 more minutes, I think we walk away with 3 points.
I agree.
But, all things considered, again, it was a tale of 2 halves. I was impressed with Houston. Ellis is a beast. I think Tab Ramos, again, I now that we've seen him as LAFC fans and you guys have yet to face them, I hope you guys have a strategy, because that's a dangerous team right there. The way they looked against LAFC.
Well, the Galaxy played Houston in the very first game of the season. Mind you, that was months ago now. And a lot of the personnel, Donna, was it the same personnel?
Yeah, it was pretty much the same. Yeah, Houston Dynamo, I think I had said that when we had first talked about the MLS back tournament, back when we were trolling the name, that, it was going to be a tough group, and that Houston, regardless of, whatever you may think, because they're not probably like recent champs or anything like that, they're always a team that disrupts it. I think during Zlatan's first year with the Galaxy, it was the Houston game that I believe they just needed to draw to go to the playoffs, and they lost. So it was right. Like Houston kept them out, and Houston was already eliminated. They didn't need to actually win the game. There was no, but that's just the way the Dynamo roll, though. They know how to disrupt you. So wasn't really surprised when I saw the 3-1 at the half. I kind of already felt like I wasn't gonna count out LAFC, given that Bob Bradley's your coach, and he's kind of proven since the beginning that he can take you places. And I just kind of felt like, well, he's going to make some adjustments and then they're going to come back. And at most I felt it at least was going to be a draw. But like Sonny said, I think if that had gone a little longer, they probably would have taken the 3 points. But, really impressive seeing them come back. I was like, wow, there's definitely a team that clicks. Yeah, they definitely, like you said, Sonny, they did look at a little lost. I would say probably in the first 20 minutes, it was pretty obvious that they looked like a little lost, like almost like you could tell that the strategies, the tactics were built for Vela to be the guy that kind of puts it behind the net. And, I think it was like they were trying to figure out who's going to be Vela for this,
Yeah, I think they were looking to see who was going to be not just their finisher, their creator, because Atuesta is the guy who kind of is credited with accompanying Vela in creativity. Yeah. And yet so much of off the ball movement that Vela does creates a lot for this team. So I think for this squad, and again, don't underestimate the Bradley Wright Phillips element to it, because anytime you're playing with a new forward, and this is what we can get into obviously with the Galaxy struggles, it's a challenge because you have to learn how to provide service to your forwards and where they like to make their runs. And obviously with Vela, they kind of know they don't need to worry about that because he'll find. That's how good of a player he is. He'll find the right run. You just got to make your runs and he'll find you, or he'll create for himself. So because we didn't have that, it was refreshing to finally see, when you talk about Chicharito's debut goal, I'm glad that Brian Rodriguez finally got off,
Yeah, that's true.
Because
that's true.
That kid has so much promise, man. And you can see it every time he's out there. But I feel like, I think he needed to play without Vela, almost from a confidence standpoint, to remind himself, to be reminded that, hey, you're just as capable as Rossi and Vela, and these other midfielder or attacking players. He has the talent, and so to see him kind of wake up, and come around to that, come around and start to take shape was exciting as a fan,
especially on the first game of this tournament. Sometimes some of this stuff happens until like the second or third because they're like kind of like getting used to the feeling of being part of this thing, but the fact that he kind of pulled that off on the first game was pretty impressive,
it really was an adjustment. It was like halftime. It's like, and that's the beauty about this tournament, much like the World Cup, it's you really don't have 2 games to try to get adjusted. It's and the first half didn't go well, let's make adjustments now. And I'm glad to see that that's exactly what they did. Props to Bob Bradley. I think, and at the risk of sounding arrogant as an LAFC fan, I think it just showcases, though, again, what I've said all along about the style of play that this team possesses. Vela or no Vela, the system and the talent that we possess at most positions enables us to always have a chance to not only tie these games or come from behind, but win these games. And so I'm excited. Again, the defense is still suspect at times. Djokovic looked like he was growing into the game, which was nice. But we'll see, man. The next game is gonna be interesting.
Well, the next one is the catalyst game, I think, for our LA Galaxy, Donald, because that hopefully adjustments can be made. It was mainly finishes. I think they had opportunity in the first half with, drawing the penalty kick and Chicharito missing his first penalty kick in MLS.
Oh, sorry, guys. I stepped away for a quick second. What did you just say? What did I just miss?
Chicharito missed a penalty kick. And Sasha Klechkin also missed a follow-up there. So big ups to the keeper. Portland Timbers keeper there. That was great.
Yeah.
And then later on, I believe it was early in the second half that Chicharito had the ball deflected off the Portland defender right to him near the penalty area, right near the penalty dot, and he whiffed over the crossbar. Like a clean Chicharito look, and he whiffs on it, just sails over the crossbar. So that would have been the second goal. Had he actually finished. And he said as much once he did finally score around the 86th minute of the game to finally get on the board. And that would have been his hat trick. And that should have happened. It should have happened, but it didn't.
Oh my God! I can't believe I'm hearing this.
What do you have to say to this?
Are you kidding me? That's not how soccer works, man.
I know. I understand. But I think that's the one positive us Galaxy fans can take from this just brutal game. Defensive breakdowns for those 2 Portland goals. I think, Donald, what do you think? Led to those 2 Portland goals.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely a defensive, just a lot of miscommunication and a lot of just, I don't know, standing around. I don't know, were they expecting them to like kind of just get the offside? It was really ridiculous the way those goals were made, because they were so close to the box that it just felt like you just let them go in like that. It was really disheartening to see that. What bothered me a lot offensively was just the constant crossing. That was really bad crossing. Like, it was either, not directly towards the player or it was over the player. And it just felt weird. And I just saw, GBS was just kind of like already like over it. It felt like by halftime. No, I don't think there was no adjustments made. I think he just kind of was like trying to dial it in at that point. It felt like it. I mean, they pointed to him at the camera. He just looked like he was just bothered that this was like the roster that he has. Yeah. And I think that it is kind of bad. But like, I guess the good that I want to take away from it is I was really impressed with Dunbar, the 17-year-old kid that started. He looks like he has flashes of somebody that has a lot of potential. It's going to be really good. Yeah, he's a really good dribbler and all that. I get that because he's young, you know, obviously you're going up against men, but he definitely looks like that kind of kid that's going to develop really well if he keeps starting, because it's the confidence thing. And he already, you know, it was just really impressive seeing him start like that. So I thought that was great. Pavon's playing was great. He hustled. He got fouled a lot, which goes to show you how much of a threat he was, that, you know, Timbers even got carded and we're down 10 men. And I mean, it was just every time I talk about this, I always feel like there's just so many chances that the Galaxy should have won this, and it just felt like they were just not wanting to win it.
And I think that has to always come down to the coaching. GBS feels like he's checked out around the 80th minute, right before the red card. Yeah. The team looks checked out. And I don't know what you do. The only optimistic thing you can hope for going into a Tráfico tomorrow, that's the spark plug. That's the spark they need. Yeah. But as fans, it's just tough to rely on that, because what could happen, obviously, what is strong possibility that will happen, is LAFC will come out, play their game, and just have their way with the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So
yeah. And
go ahead. Sonny Hermano is chomping at the bit here.
I've been biding my time, just waiting, listening, out of respect, because it's your team. You know, I wanted you guys to say your piece. I did watch that game as well, and I think I was accused of hate watching in a certain text group. But
that's right.
Let me assure you that was not the case. I was definitely not hate watching.
You and Alexi Lawless, two hate watching fans over here.
Yeah. I saw that game, and there were some things that stood out. Steve Clark, the Timbers goalkeeper, must have read Chicharito's Herbalife post or something, because he read it like a book. He knew exactly where Chicharito was kicking the whole way. He went left. Chicharito didn't even put any power behind it. It was, I was not surprised. This was a vintage Chicharito game. And in this way, and it's actually not necessarily a knock, it's not necessarily a compliment, it's that when he is the centerpiece or a centerpiece of your forward line, you are going to get a lot of frustrating moments with Chicharito. I say this as somebody who has rooted for teams that he has been a part of, mostly or namely El Tri. Now, mind you, obviously the level of talent that he's surrounded by there is vastly different. And when I say vintage, it's because the guy makes some runs that are just so smart. You know, for instance, the goal that he scored. I'll start with the positive. That was a vintage Chicharito goal, in that he snuck behind the line. He read the play. He saw it coming, and he knew where to be to just poke a goal literally within 6 yards, 7. That's his range. That's where that's where he's most dangerous. I thought it was an intelligent run. It was nice to see him finally get that goal. Because you could tell it means a lot to him. He wants it bad, you know, just from a pressure standpoint. You know, I can only imagine how it could be weighing on him, you know. So you'll get that a lot in a game that Chicharito's in, and then you'll get the missed penalty or the missed kick from the penalty spot subsequently after. A lot of frustrating misses where you're like, how did he miss that? And it's just because he's not a creator. He's a poacher in the best sense of the word. Your forwards, you want them to be poachers if they can be. It's a bonus if they can create for themselves as well.
So what's the negative?
Well, the negative is how they're using him. The formation that Galaxy threw out in 4-4-2 with him and Pavon up top, it's just not. It's not going to work. It inhibits Pavon, and Chicharito needs to be the lone guy again that is free to kind of run in the box side to side. And you can't expect Chicharito to defend because there's no that's the other negative is he doesn't defend from the top.
Yeah.
He picks his spots, but too far and few in between.
Yeah.
And I can only imagine as a Galaxy fan like how frustrating that could be.
Yeah.
To see. The adjustment that they did make though was that Pavon started slipping off to the left, and that's where the Galaxy looked a little more dangerous. So I do think there was an adjustment made.
Yeah.
I think it was too little, too late.
Yeah.
And I do. So that's all I have to say about Chicharito.
Well, Pavon's a left foot kicker, so he always tends to try to dribble the ball out, so he can just kick it with his left foot, which I feel like that, it definitely means a lot, I think, when he's playing on the left side. And I did notice that Chicharito with the defense, it's almost at times I felt like he was trying to run after somebody, but it almost felt like he's just doing it to make sure like people can see that he's trying. But I could feel it's different because you can tell when a player gets physical. I mean, the 17-year-old kid got like stepped on, and he got really thrown around a lot. And I felt like, dang, like he's really throwing himself in there, man. That's toughness to be able to get like hit and all that. And I felt like, I know Chicharito tries to avoid a lot of that. At least that's what I saw. And I think the other thing that didn't help the Galaxy was the fact that the first 2 games of the season before the shutdown, the teams that played against the Galaxy they did kind of fall for like Chicharito's presence, and they kind of kept doing the double team, which helped Pavon out because he was basically luring defenders away. And I think this time around, they were like, he's not really there. He's not a threat. So why are we? There was no real double team. There was no real, like, I could just tell, like, they really let him do whatever he wanted and just picked the spot to, like, kind of, grab him.
He's the type of player that if I were coaching against, you man mark him with one guy to just follow him when he's trying to make those sly runs in the box or get behind the line. That's how you play Chicharito. There's no need to double team Chicharito. Pavon's the more dangerous player, and obviously you guys sorely miss Jonah, somebody that can draw the defense a little bit more in to account for his creativity.
Yeah, he's more of a creator too than comparing him to Chicharito. That's true.
Exactly. So those were kind of some of the sticking points. Yes, your defense. Speaking of JV, your defense played what I would call vintage MLS defense, and that's that JV high school level style of defense. It's amazing to me that that's still happening in 2020 for a premier franchise like the Galaxy.
Yeah,
where just on that was it that second goal, Donald, that you were talking about, where literally nobody stepped up.
No,
on the player.
They all just watched the ball go in,
including the keeper.
Yeah,
and it was just like, dude, this is some AYSO shit right here.
Yeah.
Like, and it's again, as a fan of the league, not just as an LAFC fan, it's disheartening to see that because it's like, come on, guys, like there's no excuse for that.
Yeah.
No,
it's true. I think that that's been an issue that's plagued the franchise for a couple years now, since the slot, even like maybe a year before Zlatan's move it's just like they never really invested in the defense whatsoever. And my thing is like, if you're not really gonna like invest in getting good defenders, then at least go with some young guys that can run around, because like a lot of guys, Vulture and all them, like Steres, they're a lot of these guys are a former shell of themselves, and they're kind of just there.
The glaring difference, just in comparing those games back to back, right? Because they have LAFC's first, was that we both have defensive liabilities. The difference, I'd still say our defense is slightly a notch above Galaxy's, but the biggest difference is that we have the offensive ability to make up for it. Whereas when you don't have arguably your best player, or second best, if you want to say Pavon's your best player currently, in Jonah, it's going to be real tough, man, for the Galaxy to create chances. I mean, they were aimlessly kicking crosses into God knows where or into the box, trying to go into the box, but they're without purpose. And you can't play like that when you although Chicharito did almost have a golazo of a header on a cross.
Yeah. Right.
That was also almost vintage Chicharito because he scored a couple like that before. But yeah, I think the service in the air is a little too much. And hopefully Galaxy
it gets too predictable too. Exactly. I felt like after a while they already knew that that's what they were doing. It's just give it to, Rolf, and he's gonna just shoot it up there, and then hopefully someone's there to put it in, and never was. And then the other thing that frustrated me too was just the passing in general, just like the basic passing. Like I think there was a couple times where they really passed it to the guy and no one was there, and almost felt like, wait, what's happening here? And I don't know, but I mean, I'm just hopeful that they do get it together.
I hope they get it together in the third game, not the second. Not to figure it out against Houston.
It sounds like this Saturday is going to be an interesting matchup to see what adjustments Galaxy can make as it stands now against LAFC. Donald, what do you think the Galaxy need to do to stand a chance against LAFC on Saturday?
For sure, defensively, they have to be way more on it against LAFC, because as you can see, the LAFC can be down and it doesn't really, they're not counted out. And that's a big part of it. That don't die mentality is really, really important. And that's something that LAFC has that Galaxy don't. I think once I saw the first goal, it kind of felt they got a bit demoralized. In the second one, it was really like you could tell like this game was over. And I just feel like they definitely have to work better defensively, just trying to plug the lanes as much as you can, because, Rossi and a lot of those guys, they can shoot the ball even from outside the box. Like they can, and they got accuracy, which is crazy, like we were talking about earlier, like that one shot that Chicharito took from the defender that pretty much laid it for him to just, it's amazing to see that he shot it outside like that. I would have accepted it going in the box and the goalie blocking it, because at least it was okay, you were on target in the net. But the fact you went off, it just felt like, I don't know, but who knows? Maybe he was a bit nervous. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. I'm just, again, trying to be optimistic.
The crowd got to him.
As far as Galaxy goes with the roster, I really liked how Gordon Wild looked. Granted that he had that goal that was called offside. I feel like that's someone that if I had to choose between Dunbar and him to come up in the forward position, because I know it would have to be one of the two. I know he came in for Sasha, who's a midfielder, but he's a forward. So I would probably put him and then maybe Dunbar as his backup, and then have Gordon be up there with Pavon and Chicharito. And hopefully maybe that is a difference in terms of the striking side. So
Sonny, beside LAFC just lacing up their cleats, what do they have to do to beat the Galaxy on Saturday?
It can never be that easy in a clásico or tráfico in this case, because you just can't account for that. I mean, the moment you let your guard down in a game that matters to the other team, where they're going to give you their best shot no matter what their current form is, you have to bring it. You can't just assume just by showing up it's over, not in this kind of game. So I fully expect it to be a good game early. I think what happens early is going to determine, how out of hand it could potentially get or how close it will be. I'll put it to you this way. I'll be shocked if we fall down 3-1 again to the Galaxy in this case.
What's your prediction for the score?
I think LAFC 3, Galaxy 1.
Donald?
I say 1-1 draw.
Alex?
I gotta say, this Galaxy team has glimmers of doing stuff early, but then once they give up that goal, it goes out the window, and they just no tienen ganas. It's not there for them. So if they give up a goal early, which I fully expect them to do, I don't see them coming back. I see a 4-2 LAFC win. I hope I'm wrong. I just see too much offense from LAFC and not enough offense from Galaxy, and terrible defense from Galaxy.
Damn, I was going to ask you if you wanted to bet too. Now knowing what you
I hope like I said, this is what we bet on the Masvidal Usman fight. I see it one way, but my heart hopes for something different.
Yeah.
But my head always is I can't separate the head from the heart. And the head says 4-2 LAFC, the heart says 5-0 Galaxy.
I mean, Galaxy have to counterattack. That's really got to be what it's got to be for them to be successful in this game. We'll see though, man. I'm looking forward to it.
We will see. We're all looking forward to it. That's going to wrap it up for us this week. Sonny and Hermano, what's going on with you, man?
Man, so I just want to take a quick minute to promote an event that we're throwing, and by we I mean the Fox Crate. It's going down tomorrow, actually. It's basically a virtual dig for all you vinyl fiends out there. Alex, I know you're joining, man. I know you've been itching to get in on the dig.
You're gonna take all my money.
Yeah, actually, it's gonna take place at Sonido del Valle, which is a record shop located in Boyle Heights. It's a virtual dig. It's all happening via Zoom. We'll have a few crates that are going to be basically up for sale, where you'll be able to purchase, and with proceeds from the sales of the records and for the event, all going towards the Jazz Foundation of America. Which, we're excited about. We were trying to look for ways to give back to the communities that matter the most to us. And, we thought we'd try to throw events like these. So again, if you guys are vinyl collectors or want to hang, we're going to have DJ Spinurita spinning some tunes prior to kicking things off. Come through, get your code. You can visit waxforchange.org. That's
so exciting. And it's so admirable that you are doing something good for the community, giving back. That's really important always, but now more than ever, what's going on in the world. So, Sonny and Hermano, thank you for doing something like that.
Oh, thank you, man. Thanks for letting me plug it here. I appreciate it, guys.
Always. Donald, you're going to be on that virtual dig with the digging champion of the world, Sonny and Hermano?
Yeah, I plan to, man. I think some of my music's being featured on this video.
That's right. Shout out to Donald for hooking us up, donating. Temporarily some bangers for us to use as accompaniment.
Yeah,
that is awesome.
Yeah,
that is good stuff. Be sure to check that out tomorrow at waxforchange.org. That's it for us this week. Next week we will recap El Tráfico, and be sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at WestBoxScore. Please subscribe, rate, and review us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcast downloaded to your mobile device. So for Sonny and Hermano, Donald Paz, I'm Alex Gonzalez. See you next time.
Peace.
Later.